from our understanding perspective, there are, I would say, majority of three um, r- regulations or directives uh, holding India. One is definitely, we discuss about Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is more talking about focusing on books of accounts or a financial transaction. Then RBI guideline is there, which is mostly covered by BFSI segment, where a lot about you should know your sensitive data, who is accessing to that data, how you should control any direct update should not happen to, users should not bypass application, and DBA should not do any direct updates to database, or you monitor privileged users, who what they are doing on the system. So RBI talk a lot about sensitive data, privileged user, and getting data change by passing application, etc. And then finally, DPDP, where it's more about, you need to have some reasonable security guards to prevent personal data breach. It's more I would say our understanding is we had been working in EMEA region a lot with GDPR compliance, and most probably is going to be in that direction. So that's what overall our understanding is. Let's understand how AVDF can help you to meet those regulatory requirements, or some of those regulatory requirement from our understanding perspective. One is definitely they all are talking about knowing that what all database are there in your organization or network, okay? Identifying any unmonitored database. So discovering your database, knowing what your sensitive data are and who are your privileged users. Then going to, you should be able to audit your sensitive data, and depending on what they call sensitive data, it could be PI data, or it could be like personally identifiable information, depending on regulation, let's say TRI or RBI, etc., or financial data. The other one, very common, that everyone is talking about is more on monitor any direct access to data, right? So basically, users, super users or privileged users should not be able to go and update data directly from SQL prompt, or bypassing application. So that's one of the important part. And if somehow it is allowed, because when I was working with a lot of banks in India, they had like end of the day requirement where DBA goes and updates certain data to make sure there's the consistency between data and all that. In those cases, you monitor such kind of activity rather than blocking it. Audit should always be on, and this is one of the very important requirement from MCA side as well. Monitor all changes in the financial record. That's again, specifically MCA is asking for it. You need to keep any, first is that you monitor any changes to financial record. Means more is like you keep edit logs of your book of accounts, which means what value has been changed by whom, etc. And finally, they all are saying that your database should be configured as per industry best practices, and you should follow whatever best practices defined by that database vendor, and you define your baseline and identify drifts. So now, after this slide, I'll start talking about AVDF and how AVDF, but some features can help you to achieve that. Before we move there, okay, let me just clear this. So before we move there, let's see how AVDF evolved, okay? And we started long back in 2003, when database used to have just their own audit log in particular database, right? And then industry evaluation happened, and industry evolved, and industry started talking about second industry started talking about uh, some audit log kind of some audit log consolidation or a log management kind of a solution. And at that time, we introduced very first solution called Audit Vault, where we were talking about you collect audit logs of audit from audit trail of Oracle database at one centralized place, and then you have your reporting generated from there. So more simplifying DBA's life from looking at reports, because DBAs were struggling in audits. Every time they have to give different type of reports. So Audit Vault was helping them. Then industry evolved when it started talking about the term came in market like database activity monitoring around 2007. So we started with so what we did that we around 2012 we acquired one company, Secreno, which has a database firewall and network-based activity monitoring also. So we combined both the solution, our Audit Vault, and that, and we started doing by 2012 we started doing AVDF. AVDF actually was born then, and we started calling Audit Vault and Database Firewall, and we started supporting heterogeneous database, not only limited to Oracle, but Oracle and non-Oracle. Then industry evolved when he said that, okay, database activity monitoring is fine, but database posture management or data posture management is one of the most important part also when it comes to protecting data. And that's how we evolve. We broaden our platform. We modernize AVDF. We launched AVDF 20 in 2020 and 2023 with not AVDF 20.13, but previous RUs. We started talking about database security posture management, where you can discover user privilege users. And in 2012 we also include database discovery, which kind of completes DSPM kind of a offering. And so that's how AVDF evolved with what industry also asked for, right? And the most common use cases when database activity monitoring solutions came in industry, the most common use cases, I think most of you must be using it to monitor your privileged user activity. You want to get notified when any suspicious activity is happening. You want to protect also if any unauthorized access to data or a direct access to data. If direct data change direct through direct channel data is getting changed, simplify your regulatory compliance, and many times like strong reporting tool or powerful reporting tool where you can easily do after incident analysis, right? Because this is one of very very crucial part. Why I'm saying that, I have seen some banks uh, they had faced some attack, and after that RBI was there to evaluate everything. They were asking for different type of a data, and customer was having a terrible life that day. I happened to be there on same day to present AVDF, and that was quite interesting. It was definitely not intentional, but this is what happened that time. So yeah, I mean, incident analysis is one of very important part, and it's really painful if at all you get into that kind of a problem. But from coming from those common use cases, AVDF evolved, not just being a database activity monitoring solution. Our target is to give you a security control to make sure whatever you need to do at database security level, everything happens from AVDF, right? So of course we are on that journey, and we started our journey with introducing completing this cycle from the perspective that giving you posture management, where you discover database data and privilege user, doing audit collection from different sources, not just audit log of your target database, but doing a network-based SQL event monitoring as well, collecting SQL Firewall, for example. Before many of you joined, somebody was asking about database 23AI. 23AI has its own built-in SQL firewall for Oracle database, and there are violation logs. So bringing those violation log, if you use Key Vault, bringing those audit logs, if you're using Database Vault, bringing those violation log, everything within AVDF, so that you can see that rather than going those different database security solutions, you come to AVDF and have those audit collection and report generated from there. Doing policy management from that AVDF centralized place. We have started with unified auditing, provisioning, and management for Oracle database, and then database firewall policies, which is more heterogeneous in nature, alert policies, which is again heterogeneous in nature, and ILM policy, which is also one of the very important policy management from the perspective regulations ask that you need to hold data for so and so time and all that. So defining those ILM policies depending on your organization requirement. And finally, giving your capability to do deep analysis, right? Efficient reporting and analysis. We will take one small example here, that how quickly you can slice and dice data in AVDF. I had experience with working other database activity monitoring solution as well. So I can really compare that this is how this is so simplified than some other solution where you have to really define the report, give the report definition, and then generate the report, and then slicing and dicing of data, creating custom report are so difficult job. So we will look at some of those examples as well. So let's start with those 6 major points I have talked about, where AVDF, so AVDF can do all that, but these are the 6 major points we understand are one of the most hot use cases when it comes to current requirements in India, from regulations and from different directives coming in to our customers. So let's look at them one by one. So first is like discovering database, data, and user. So that's the very first step, right? There's a saying that unless you know what to protect, you won't be able to protect, right? So knowing is very important. And that's where we discover with AVDF, your database, data, and users. And that becomes very complex when you are enterprise level organizations. You have hundreds of database. Your DBA might be creating some other, short-term test database, and then somehow it left in the system. We know that any dormant or dormant or stale database is one of the entry point for our attackers. So making sure that you discover what database are there, what are you monitoring with AVDF, what you are not monitoring with AVDF, so that you can have an informed decision. If you want to register those database, discover database with AVDF, you do that, so that you are making informed decision, and you are avoiding any gaps in your security monitoring policies and regulations, right? So what we have done that in 20.12, one RU previous, we introduced database discovery feature, usually because you have to go over the network and find that what all databases are there. So everyone uses Nmap kind of a capability. What we have done, and that's the informed decision we have taken, many solutions, they do Nmap from their tool itself, and then discover and tell you this. But if you look at many organizations, they block that kind of activity, because Nmap is scanning over network is one of the way, or one of the action of attack as well, right? So what we have done, that we decouple that activity. We are asking our customer that you do your Nmap scan as per your organization standards, and as per, you take some exception, you run so and so time, and then you upload that scan to AVDF. And in AVDF, we will scan whatever you have, your Nmap has scanned, and we discover database targets and their types, IP address, and port, and tell you, okay, these are the database, and then we tell you whether you have already registered or monitoring those database from AVDF. So if it is registered, we don't tell, and we only show you unregistered targets. Then if you want to assign to any admin, and that admin will go and register it, or super administrator can register it, or you directly just go and register that target, start monitoring it. Many times what happened, database is discovered, but you don't want to register it that time, and you want to put it in your ignored list. Let's say some short-term UAT or training or test database created, you don't want to monitor it, but you just want to keep it. Maybe in future, you want to monitor it, so you put it in your ignored list, and later on, if you want to register it, you uh, get it back in your main list, main discovered targets, and then you register it. So that's what database discovery feature in all is giving you. Now it comes to sensitive data and privileged user discovery. Why it is important? Like I said, it's to protect anything, you need to know who are they, what it is, right? So very step is discovering database which you want to monitor. The second step comes that what are your sensitive data, where it is stored, who has permission to this, what your privileged users are, and how your privileged users are accessing your sensitive data, right? So then it comes to privileged users and sensitive data. So here we use capability of AVDF has a capability to discover privileged users, what permission do they have on different objects. We call it entitlement report. And we are using sensitive object discovery as well, with some standard biographic information or healthcare information. And you can, if any object is holding, if any table is holding on that particular uh, those kind of data, you can go and discover those data. But we have gone one step beyond that, right? With not only discovery, what we did, that we introduced a feature called global set, which means that you can create a multiple groups of similar kind of data. So you can have, let's say, 4 or 5 or whatever number of set of privileged users. You create global set, right? And then you can use these global sets in your database firewall policy, looking at when you are slicing and dicing your reports, or when you're looking at your when you are defining your alert policies as well. So we will talk about that. So now, same with sensitive object, you can create, let's say, okay, these are the set of sensitive object are relevant, holds financial data. They are more relevant from MCA perspective. The other sensitive objects are more relevant from RBI perspective. They hold financial data, etc. So you can create a different global sets and use them across AVDF application. The second part comes like audit all the sensitive data, including, so once you have discovered database data and user, the second part, what they talk about, that you should be able to audit those sensitive data. So auditing those sensitive data, these are the, so it's a one repository of Audit Vault server, and it collects log from different sources, whether this could be a database audit logs, or there could be operating system audit logs, or a activity happening over the network. I mean, database specific network events, or a SQL basically running on network, or maybe somebody directly accessing data, either bequet or local connection, making it, or any other custom source. We can collect audit logs from different sources if they provide in JSON format or XML or CSV, etc. There are many custom for a format that we support, and including your change data as well, which is like what value has been changed from this value to this value. Okay, or auditing that, which is very unique to AVDF. We do that. And then there are, under red, you will see that I was talking about security control for database security solutions. So a lot of log collection from different Oracle database security solutions, and bringing those logs to one centralized Audit Vault repository so that you can have one centralized reporting. Once you do that, because we are talking about auditing all sensitive activity, so from the policy perspective, so you have different sources to collect logs, and one, that's a collecting log is one part, right? The other part is defining policies, that who can do what, so that you'll be able to monitor. So monitoring comes after that. From monitoring perspective, you will be able to provision and manage Oracle audit policies from AVDF itself. So, configuring your targets and different trails across your organization, and who, what, when, where, and then you define your alert baseline, you create or schedule reports, etc. So that's more from database audit policy provisioning. This is one of the example of AVDF. You have unified policies. There are the core predefined AVDF policies, which you can just check and provision on the target. Or there are Oracle database predefined policies as well, which are here, and then you can just check which one you want to apply. Custom policies, you have right now, you have to define at the database layer, but from AVDF you can, once you have created that custom policy on that particular target, from direct from the target, not from the AVDF, then from AVDF you will be able to manage more from whether you would like to provision that on that target or not. So you'll be able to do that kind of a thing. So that's more Oracle auditing policies. Then it comes to database firewall policy, which you can define. So database firewall policy flow is that you identify actor, then you identify what action you want to monitor, and finally you configure resetting, like what action you want to take on that. So actors could be your users, different IP address, client, etc. So basis on all these information, you define what action, whether they are updating certain table or accessing certain query, or updating my sensitive object. So this command class and SQL statement, etc. And then finally, what action you would like to take, like you define logging levels, you define whether you want to block or you want to get alerted, or what threat level should be. So it's more like risk setting on those actors and actions you define. And that's more heterogeneous from whatever the supported database we have for database firewall, you define that. Once you have defined those policies, then it comes to monitoring user activities, right? So AVDF provides a very powerful interactive reporting for rapid analysis. There are dozens of out-of-box reports. You can use them. There are many compliance reports, standard compliance report, not specific to, I would say, India, but still you can leverage them, let's say GDPR, PCI, etc. And because their requirement is some very much similar, but you can have your own reports also saved by slicing and dicing it, giving you fleet-wide audit inside that what is happening, what are your top 5 privileged users, what are the top 5 activities happening on your system, what are your top 5 target from the event perspective, detecting any data exfiltration if somebody is accessing a lot of data, thousands of record telling you that what all those users, how they are doing it, giving that information, and before after value change information for Oracle, SQL Server, and MySQL right now. Okay, that's more MCA compliance requirement perspective. So I just want to give you one example here that how quickly you can slice and dice data in AVDF, and why we are saying it's deep analysis. So let's take a simple use case, and usually it's a very common use case. I think most of you when you look at report, you would like to slice and dice data that way. Let's say we want to find uh, record changes on sensitive data done by my application user by passing the application. That means my application user directly connecting to the database and making changes to my sensitive object. Okay. So once first time I look at, so these are the different type of activity reports are available in AVDF. So let's say I click on activity report, and right now you will see that some 16,000 plus records are monitored or audited till now. Okay. So I'm just giving you example, right? So you remember our use case, right? So first thing what we do, I'm just using global set capability and I'm filtering out activity done on my sensitive objects or one particular global set. So once I have filtered down, then I will just go on user and I'll filter, okay, this user is my application user, and I will filter basis on employee search prod because he's my application user. So you go and click basis on that user, right? And then, one second. Okay. And then what you do is I go and I try to find out uh, what type of connections are happening to my system, what are the client programs are. So there are some application based access by this user, which is more a legitimate way of updating any data, and the second one is through SQL plus, which is not a legitimate way of doing accessing data. So I will filter on my SQL plus. Okay, so SQL plus being added as a filter, and the final thing comes is my update, right? I want to because see update. So now you see uh, we slice and dice databases on sensitive object, my application user, connecting directly, and updating my sensitive data. This is the condition being created. And with some quick slicing and dicing from 16,000 plus record, you have reached just 7 record to evaluate that what this user was doing, when, why, how. There are few default selected column. You can go in action and select more columns and look at even the actual sequels, etc. So slicing, that's a very, very unique capability of AVDF. And it's a very basic requirement when it comes to database activity monitoring solution, but it's very unique capability that AVDF gives you, that how quickly you can slice and dice data and reach to that one interest of record. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, how easily you can do that. That's what AVDF provides. Then monitor any direct access to data. This is one of the example. It's I have connected as a super user. I'm doing some access to data. You can go in AVDF. You can, like, I have just showed that in previous slide also I have showed that that example here, I'm showing policy name as well. This can be done either you define your unified audit policy, or even with database firewall host monitor, you'll be able to monitor any direct connection. So whether these are the data changes or schema level changes directly happening, you'll be able to monitor that. And that's again one of the requirement by MCA. Audit trail should always be on. That's again one more requirement from MCA. We provide something called downtime report. Agent is always on. In case of AVDF, we introduce a feature called auto start. So if communication stops after some, it continues to ping with audit wall server and restart itself. So you don't really need to go and do some troubleshooting and start that system. When agent is not, let's say it's stopped, right? Uh, collection is stopped, it doesn't mean that you are losing your audit data. It's basically being collected on the target, and once the communication is back, your collection resumes from the point of last collection. So this is, I think, some of our customer giving as a evidence that audit trail is always on when it comes to complying by MCA. Then monitor all the changes in the financial record. Now, this is very unique one, right? Specifically, MCA. Now, RBI also has this requirement in some way, but MCA is specifically set for books of accounts. You need to maintain edit logs, which is like what it was the old value and what is the new value. So this is very unique capability with Oracle. We do it very efficiently. We integrate with Golden Gate solution of change data capture of Oracle. We do not use any trigger-based solution or old Oracle Stream solution, anything. We use, industry winner or best solution like Golden Gate. And right now we are supporting Oracle SQL Server and MySQL. So this is an example of, let's say, update where you have old value and the new value along with some primary key values as well, and how it's been connected, by whom, and all other details, the user, client host, client program, object, like which table. And in delete, let's say you have old value, but there is no new value. And similarly for insert also, you will have only like new value, you will not have old value. There is no value change. So this is something unique we provide for AVDF. Right now, like I said, we are doing for Oracle, MySQL, and SQL Server. And then finally, we are talking about configuring database as per industry standards. So Oracle Database provides database security assessment solution. When you are managing not just 5 or 10 database, when you are managing hundreds of targets in your organization, most of the time, it's a doubtful that whether your database is configured as per best practice, or it is all it's configured, are you following any best practice, or it's configured securely, are you compliant by your security standards, by your organization security standard, or hardening guidance, what you usually you do, or how you can strengthen or harden your Oracle database further. So this security assessment functionality right now available only for Oracle database. That's why I'm saying Oracle again and again. So we do, yeah, you will have a fleet-wide database security assessment across your Oracle targets. You will, on dashboard, it gives you a very quick view of that, what all total findings are, how many high risk or how many medium risk, low risk on database. A lot could be evaluate category, because we ultimately don't know whether do you want to give a DBA permission to 10 or 15 or 20, but we discover and tell you that this is the number what you have given, and you may want to evaluate whether this is the best way, or do you want to really further harden your standard and maybe take out some permissions. So those kind of use cases, let's say, comes under evaluate, and a lot of advisory from Oracle best practice perspective. There are risk by categories. So it does security assessment in different categories. For example, basic information like your patch level, etc., auditing, your database configuration, parameters, which are like direct connection to the database. Have you enabled OS-based connection or what? And privilege and roles, user accounts, so a lot of different categories as well. Further, so when you do assessment, it tell you where you are, obviously, and then it has a compliance mapping as well. So for every test that we run, we tell you that, okay, this is coming from so-and-so compliance, it is coming from CIS guideline or STIG or Oracle best practices or Oracle recommendation. And then we give you like a remark or recommendation that what you're supposed to do that, right? And you are doing all that fleet-wide. And further, what we have done, you can define one of them as a baseline, and then you can periodically schedule your security assessment on those targets and have a drift management as well. So you see from your baseline with your next assessment, where are you? What percentage have you, how many, let's say, high risk were there compared to baseline, and now how many been added, modified. So this is more a home page on dashboard. This is one of the graph that we display. Otherwise, if you click these risks, you go and look at the detailed report and detailed drift as well. Now, another feature that I will talk about, you customize the assessment as well in my coming slides. So in particular, so whatever till now we talk about, it wasn't only MCA, but other directives and guidelines which are driving this requirement, business drivers in India right now. In particular to MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs guideline, which is more, audit approach in implementation guide, where so we have dedicated detailed presentation also around MCA, where we are talking about whose responsibility is what as per this implementation guideline, etc. But in nutshell, in summary, MCA requirement that you capture changes to books of accounts on every transaction, capture who, when, who, what data being changed at database level, capture if any direct changes are happening, always enabled, prevent tampering, retain as per statutory requirement, if I recall. Was it 8 years, Angeline, or no?
Yes, it's 8 years retention. Yeah.
And then finally, you monitor and manage control effectively. So whatever we talked about, changes, AVDF before, after, powerful interactive reporting, that's something I have shown you. You can monitor direct access either through or unified audit policy or even from database firewall, but most of them are Oracle. So we are saying unified audit policy. AVDF is a software appliance-based solution. It's a hardened appliance with all the security standards, internally uses all Oracle enterprise security solutions like TD, database vault for separation of duty, and TD for data at rest encryption, strong access control, and we have introduced self-auditing. So database auditing, if anything at the core database layer changes, if anything core operating system level changes in the appliance, we are auditing that. And I will talk about more. I will talk more about auditing in my 20.13 feature as well. Agent auto start, which is like always on. Then defining ILM or data retention policy, and then finally, when they say effectively monitoring or having access control, you achieve that by using either database firewall policies or database firewall monitoring or unified audit policies. In particular, to auditing policies. And I think Angeline has done a great job in putting this slide to simplify everything. In particular, and that's more relevant for Oracle databases, by the way. So first thing, from the policy perspective, they are saying that local direct connection to the database. So in AVDF, in Oracle database using unified audit policy, you can have custom audit policy, and you can just have this particular policy deployed to make sure you audit every direct access. Okay. But if you're talking about any non-Oracle databases, then in AVDF 20.13, we introduce that feature also. You don't need to deploy any policy as such, but you'll be able to monitor through our agent for database firewall host monitor. Any direct bequet or local connections are happening. So that could be relevant more for non-Oracle databases and unified auditing. Custom, this policy is more relevant for Oracle. You can do it, that database firewall for Oracle as well, but yeah, if you want to do auditing, you can deploy this. It's a log on and log off operations. So if you are on 21C and above, there's a log on predefined policies available. You can enable that, or you can, if you are anything previous to that, you can even, or you have an option of if you remember, I've shown you AVDF predefined policies, and there also you have log and log off event auditing enabled. You can enable from there as well. Okay, you can exclude all users except only your application service accounts who are authorized to access to your book of accounts. And then finally, enabling some default audit policies, which are already enabled, actually included in Oracle database, which is is Aura Secure Config, which includes any DDL activities like any data, any schema level changes, your login failures, and there are other default policies or predefined policies depending on which flavor of Oracle database you are using. So these are the three important category of auditing policy when it comes to MCA compliance. That's what our understanding is. This is the example that she has created, log in, log off event, excluding all other users, but only monitoring your application services, enabling your Oracle secure predefined policies, and enabling direct DB access, which is under more custom policies. Okay, so that concludes that second part of our agenda, which is more like mapping with those requirements that we discussed in our very initial slide. Like I said, last week we introduced 20.13, and it was a feature-packed release, and we introduced a lot of thing in AVDF. Very first one is definitely we introduced support for 23 AI target, and I was talking about SQL Firewall. SQL Firewall is inbuilt with Oracle Database 23 AI, and interestingly, SQL Firewall license is included in Audit Vault and Database Firewall, AVDF. So if you have AVDF license, you have permission to use SQL Firewall as well with the AVDF 23 with database 23 AI. Okay, from AVDF perspective, in 20.13, we are collecting violation log of SQL Firewall. Database firewall, AVDF, that second part, DF, database firewall, can be deployed in different modes, which is host monitors, proxy mode, or out of band monitoring. In India, most of our customers use host monitor, which is more an agent-based approach. And here, till now, we were able to monitor all the traffic coming through the network to the database, but not any loopback or a bequet kind of a connection. For that, you have to enable that that audit policy of database, that Oracle database that I have shown you in my previous slide. But with 20.13, now you'll be able to monitor local and bequet connection with host monitor. This is again something many of you had been asking for it. I think in last couple of months, at least, I would have got 10 to 15 query on that, which is auditing console level auditing, right? So we were able to do it database level auditing and operating system level auditing for AVDF appliance. But till now, we were not doing auditing for AVDF console itself, like as an auditor or as an admin, if I am defining any policy or updating any policy, adding or removing any target or registering any target, creating any new user, all that. So now we are supporting that. So I will show you example of that. Remember, we talk about global sets. Global sets, we have introduced that concept now in audit policy. We were doing it for database firewall and reports, but now we have introduced in alert policy conditions as well. Another thing that we have introduced is database security assessment severity, which you can customize. So we have hundreds of tests, right? And we have updated, we are integrating with DBSAT. So whatever the new version DBSAT introduced, we update within AVDF as well. So, but many customers, we have seen that, let's say you have exception from your security group that, okay, this test is not relevant, etc. But what happens when we have that test in our assessment, and that's there in your baseline. So every time it will show you as a, it reduces your how secure your system is, that percentage, right? So we have introduced functionality that whether you can add exception or defer that particular test, or you can lower the severity, right? If it is in medium as per industry standard, but from your organization requirement perspective, you want to ignore it or you want to lower the severity, let's say make it pass or something, so you can do that as well. Okay, but we are keeping record of it, we are showing it, there are comments supposed to be added, etc. Other part, lot many customers were asking if I can install AVDF on AWS, not monitor the target from AWS. That anyways you can do it, but can I install AVDF on AWS? So that's what we have. We are giving you AVDF image, which are uh, which are compliant by AWS. I mean, which are supported to be installed on AWS EC2. And other part, sometime back, we introduced agentless collection. So many places you don't want to install agent on the target. You want to do, let's say, it was more relevant for quick test or some education or even for some small targets, right? But that was not supported if AVS, your audit vault, was deployed in high availability. Now with 20.13, agentless collection is supported with high availability configuration. That was another point that our customers were asking. And finally, like I said, for our security assessment feature, we integrate with one of the most popular database security assessment tool for Oracle, DBSAT tool, freely available through Metalink. So that we are integrating with DBSAT within AVDF. The advantage of using, so we brought like best of both worlds, like DBSAT does a very comprehensive assessment for Oracle databases than any other vulnerability assessment tool. And AVDF had a capability to do everything centralized, everything at fleet level. So we brought DBSAT inside AVDF and doing security assessment for your entire Oracle fleet. We have updated with the latest release version of DBSAT, which has, I think, if I remember correctly, maybe somebody else can point if I'm saying wrong. So this one has some 200 plus, I think, test, the latest DBSAT one. And it is updated with all the latest CIS requirements and STIG requirement as well. So I have put some couple of screenshots for you to show that how what we have done in 20.13. It's for I was saying global set in alert policy. So for example, you want to define access. Somebody is trying to, let's say, access or update sensitive objects directly, right? So earlier what you had to do is that you have to really write here all the list of IP addresses, mention that, or all the list of objects that you want to monitor to if there is change happening, just alert me. You have to list down all that object. You don't do that anymore. You can create global sets and use those global sets in your AV alert policy condition, and that's it. You are done. Other part, what we have done just to simplify your life more is that you can create conditions using reports, and that's something I will, if we will have some time, I will show you through AVDF console itself, or you can just create using global sets. Other one which I want to show you is that we have introduced an entire new section under report, which is AVDF system audit reports. So you have all activity, application, database, and OS auditing, all that for AVDF appliance, not the target. And this kind of a report you will get when it comes to your console. Okay, I'll show you that report as well. So in summary, AVDF is not just a database activity monitoring solution. It's much more beyond that. You assess your security configuration, you assess your user entitlements, you detect drift, you discover sensitive data, you discover your privileged users, collect audit data from different sources, you report, you alert, you do forensic investigation, you finally block or prevent also that who can access what, when, how, etc. And finally, it is available on premise, which is like giving you more control on your data that on audit data, unlike your any cloud-based auditing solution, or if you are using cloud-based, so you can or you have a cloud, you're using Oracle Cloud, or now with AWS also. So you can deploy AVDF on either Oracle Cloud, which is available as a marketplace image, or you can deploy on AWS as well. Whatever feature I have talked about till now, the best part is that you can go try and have a feel of everything by just not deploying in your environment. Okay, so there is something called AVDF Live Lab. This is one of the most, sorry, something is happening. One of the most popular AVDF, one of the most popular lab under database security category. And you don't need to deploy AVDF in your environment. If you want to, evaluate it and have a feel of AVDF, just go either use brown button, which is like you get a stack file and you deploy in your OCI environment, or you can use something called green button, where Oracle will give you resource or give you a working instance of AVDF for a couple of hours, and you go and you do entire lab. So they are tasks, you can follow them and you can do your own, you can just play with the solution. So you can scan this QR code. Okay, and I run AVDF Cafe 3 to 6 months whenever there is new release or new topic to talk about. These cafes are APAC, EMEA, and North America time friendly, so you can scan first one because it's more India time friendly. There are AVDF blogs. You have many blogs. Yeah, we come up with blog with every release as an announcement, so you can go through those AVDF blogs as well, and these are the QR codes for AVDF documentation. Okay, so I will stop here. And so, Angeline, do we have some time to go through?
Yes, I think there are like plenty of traffic in the Q&A panel also, and I'm happy that many of the panel experts, such as Vijay, Mahesh, and all answered most of it. So quite an active interaction. So let me stop the recording here. Probably all of you are permitted to talk as well. So
Yeah, Yeah, that
No,
is the
so
question.
I'm saying if we have 5, 10 more minutes, I will just show quickly
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
AVDF
Yes, yes,
situation,
please. Yes,
and then
yes.
we open for
Q&A?
open
Okay,
discussion.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so this is like AVDF 20.13 latest release. And remember, I was showing you security assessment for Oracle database. Right now, I have just two targets. It is giving you a complete view that what has been passed, medium, high. I don't have any high risk. And then there are drift graphs for this. Okay, but I'll show you some of the important or my favorites, I would say that. So alert policy, we were talking about global sets in alert policy. Okay, and let's take an example that I want to, same example, right? I want to create an alert if there is an update happening by application user on my, if with some direct connections to the database, right? So I have one global set here created, which is like all the local IPs I have listed down here. These are the IPs of databases where using these IPs, user can directly connect to the database itself by sync application. So I have I have created one global set for IP address. And now, so I'm not giving name and all, I'll just want to show you quickly. So if you create condition using global set, okay. So, sorry, this is more creating basis on report. So let's select, so IP address by default, IP address set is not there. I want to select that. Command class is not there. I want to select that. And let's apply. Then I will uncheck 24 hours because I might not have relevant activity. So this particular user, I want to make sure when it is connecting directly on my sensitive object, let's say, and or I can have set also. So I don't have set. I'm just clicking one particular object, and let's say, yeah. And this is the, okay, so okay, and I think and this IP address global set, right? So this condition is created and I just say copy condition. And if you see, all the condition is copied here. So I didn't type a single word here, right? So that's the one way of doing it. The other way could be I write certain things. So for example, I say, let's say I pass information like object is this and command class is my update, but I want to add. So on this object, if there is update is happening through my set of IP addresses, so I create condition, I select IP address, I select operator in or not in. Here in is more relevant for me. I will say local IP set, add condition. While adding, it will ask whether you want to, how do you want to append that condition, with and or I will say and you apply. Okay, so global set condition. Now, when global set was not there, what you had to do is that you had to write, let's say, in operator, and then you say that list all the list of IP addresses or all the list of database users or sensitive object. That was many of our customers were doing with global set. All that is very simplified. So this is an example of using global set in alert policy, which I really like. Other one, we were talking about application auditing, which is so at bottom for super auditor only, we added this section, AVDF system reports. You have all activity application database auditing. Let's look at application auditing. So let's uncheck some 24 hours activity so that we can find out something much relevant. So if you see here, I have deployed database firewall policy, log unique. If you click here, AV auditor has done it at this time. If you click here, you will look at more detailed information. In a lot of information in this case, we are capturing even in the in extension. So for example, which target, it was PDB2 target where I have defined it and who has done it. AV auditor role was super auditor and it was Oracle database. And so all that other information is also there in the extension if you want to evaluate further down. Okay. Similarly, you will find information. Let's filter out with admin. Okay, so there is a admin user I have created. Okay. There is auditor information. I have created different auditors, Sam, Alex, etc. from AVDF console. So that information, if you filter out program by console, I think you will get more console level of information, which most of you are interested basically. So you will see all the relevant, like I have deleted certain alert policy. I have created this name. So direct update, I have created it. I have deleted it. I have update. While updating, I got some failures as well. So all that activity, whatever at console level you are doing by different user, it's been captured here. So this is another requirement, which is like, watch the watcher or policing of the police, kind of a concept that we are doing here. And finally, I would like to show you that exception thing, right? So for example, there are some risk has been identified, it has certain category, and let's say I decide, okay, found two control files, ensure control files have redundancy, it doesn't really suit to our organization configuration, let's say, and I check this, I add exception, either I change severity or I defer the assessment altogether. I can change the severity, select low, evaluate or pass. So you will go lower than that. And then you give the justification. If you want, you can expire also that test. Okay. If you are doing that exception for certain time, or you are deferring that test for certain time, so you can do that. And then let's say I defer it and I say not as per or requirement, and I say save. Remember which one we added. So then that assessment gone from there. Here we have deferred that test. If let's say some other test you, okay, so if we have details. Okay, let's have everything. Okay, so you can even evaluate that what the severity level you have given, what was Oracle predefined severity, and if it is changed, or if any justification is there for that. So you can do all that here with the assessment report now, which was not there earlier. Okay, so yeah, that's that some of the feature that I wanted to show.